science and technology. Massive coronal hole in the sun is blasting Earth with its solar storms that could cripple power grids. Again, this is related to what we're talking about. The solar winds triggered a giant geomagnetic storm this week, raising fears that it could cripple power supplies. The charged particles were coming from this coronal hole in the sun that is currently facing the Earth, this hole here. These coronal holes, if you guys remember, are a recent phenomenon. These aren't things that we knew about or saw prior to these satellites going up. Maybe they existed before, but we've never seen them to this massive scale. So warnings were issued by the operator of the biggest power grid in the U.S., PJM Interconnection LLC, as well as Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, which manages high voltage power lines across North America, reports Bloomberg. These were the result of U.S. Space Weather Prediction Center raising a serious G3 level storm event. Now, isn't this interesting that we're starting to get public knowledge now of solar events in the mainstream media right after President Obama 2 weeks ago signed the executive order for the preparation for space events? I just think it's interesting, don't you? You'll remember a couple days ago I was talking about the the sun losing, where we lost our view from the SDL satellite, and basically it stopped emitting light in all wavelengths as detected by the SDL satellite. Now our physicists weighed in on this, and this is one time I want to show the paper. You can also see these on a channel called A Physicist's Thoughts, which is sponsored by Chris Potter, and you can go check that out yourself. But I'm going to go ahead and go through this paper very quickly. You can read the details of it. But basically what they're showing is that there's an image cutoff at a certain point here, but the surface also gets progressively darker. And what's interesting about this analysis is that what she is saying basically is that they were covering up or hiding or trying to hide another sun event. And like I said, I'll just put the pages up there so you can read through it yourself. I won't bore you with all the details because it's an interesting paper, but it is scientific, so you have to look at it and read it. And what I'm going to tell you, and you can stop on any one of these pages, read it, move on to the next page. I'm just going to keep doing this, okay? Page 9 of 10, and then 10 of 10. And I'll just read the conclusion. The sun has once again, this is what our physicist is saying, in conclusion, the sun has once again lost its ability to emit light on October 19, 2016, suggesting that some object came within close proximity of the sun and drained it of its surface charge. These are bold claims, you guys, and again, I just put the evidence out there in a video, and I just said it was weird. I left it go after that. The physicists picked it up voluntarily and on their own volition and went through and gave us this analysis. So I don't even ask for this analysis. It just comes, they just volunteer it to us, which is great, and we do appreciate this physicist, and so we definitely treasure it. This is probably a similar process to what's been happening in the 184-day period that we've also extensively reported on, and still stick to our guns that there was no Earth eclipse during those times when we lost the sun signal from the SDO satellites. We do believe that that was an eclipse, a power discharge, and we're sticking to that because I'm going to go with the physicist, not with some harebrained, Astro Boy from wherever. Now, instead, it went dark 4 times from 4 different directions on October 19th, suggesting that the object made 4 passes close to the sun's surface. And since the sun went dark for between 40 and 43 minutes for each pass, it is likely that the object stayed close enough to the sun's surface in order to neutralize its surface charge for at least 40 minutes during each pass. Since this darkening event was quite different from what was observed during the 184 period darkening cycle, it is most likely the object passing close to the sun's surface and causing the darkening event of October 19, 2016 cannot be the same object as the one that causes the 184-day period cycle. So, and again, we're being able to deduct that there are other objects than just one object. The brown dwarf that is parked in front of the baffle in Secchi images may still be involved in its darkening cycle, as it is filling the solar system with ionized iron, which weakens the sun and continuously drains it of its energy. And that's what we think that big red halo is around the sun. So I wanted to give you that. However, it is not likely that planet Nibiru was the object that passed too close to the surface of the sun, as this planet has an approximate 184-day cycle, and it's not time for it to return yet. This suggests that a star, possibly another brown dwarf, passed close to the sun and made 4 sweeps close to its surface, completely draining its surface of charge each time. The fact that the sun seems to spring between two positions as its surface changes and light emissions return may be due to this object releasing the sun from its attractive influence, because we saw motion. This darkening event on October 19, 2016 also suggests that there may be more objects than previously thought are able to drain the sun of surface charge and cause it to stop emitting light in all wavelengths. So there you go, guys. I mean, I wanted to bring up this particular physicist paper because this is what I think that we're seeing when we see this coronal hole as well. I think these are effects, tearing away the fusion layer atmosphere of the sun and looking straight into the energy or magneto, whatever's going on inside of the sun, that major fusion and gravity and magnetism and everything like that. I do believe that these things are running by, ripping holes in the sun. That's what we think. And so what is this? How does this relate to biblical prophecy? Well, in the Bible, it talks about 3 days of darkness, right? And this is where you get this 3 days of darkness thing that you hear in the Nibiru community, Wormwood community. So we all acknowledge that it's very possible that either an object can pass in front of the sun, causing it to go dark, like the moon during an eclipse, or the sun might lose not all of its energy. Don't think the sun's going to go dead. It's just going to lose its ability to emit visible light for a short period of time. The Bible talks about that as 3 days of darkness. We think it's more likely the scenario where this brown dwarf or black star or whatever we're calling it gets too close to the sun, and it will rip the protons off the sun, if you will, and we'll lose light for a period of time. That's what we would think if the Lord, that's one way the Lord might bring about this 3 days of darkness that he talked about in the scriptures. So this is how theology, science, observations, and everything kind of tie together. This is what the WSO channel is all about, is seeing if we can make sense of all that. Okay, what you see here, everybody, is me holding a very bright halogen light at my camera. Okay, now watch as I move it around. And I just want to lay a track here because I want to show you guys something. So this is me just playing around with my flashlight so I can show you what lens flares look like for a minute, okay? Now. Okay, so on the left you see me, the lens flares, basically. And one of the lens flares that you clearly see is the inside of my big flashlight. It has little knobs in it like that, and it's got the light in the middle, and basically what it became was a little reflection or image of what was inside the camera. So there's me demonstrating a good way to look at a lens flare. Because look, when Scott showed us that amateur photographer that found the actual optics that were up there, we don't know how they built it, but there it is. And then we saw a lens flare of the same thing, or we see lens flares with device-looking things in them, then it's perfectly legitimate that we might be looking at the inner workings of some type of a device. So I'm trying to use the same trick that they tried to debunk me with to show that you can actually see stuff from a lens flare. Now we have to be careful though, because sometimes lens flares can fool us. And so next I'm going to show you how to not get fooled by a lens flare. Okay, see the picture in the major dominant picture here on the left. You'll see that this individual saw objects behind the sun, and he circled all of them, and which was very interesting because this is just basically daytime astronomy. These could be just normal objects in the sky or stars or whatever, but the fact is that he was seeing those objects, and in order to confirm that he was seeing objects or something in space versus a sun flare, you put an object in front of the sun so that it blocks the light of the sun. And if the objects remain, likely we don't have a lens flare there. Now, what I'm showing you there on the right there, that's a lens flare. And sometimes you'll even get shapes of crosses and all kinds of weird stuff from a lens flare. So just, in order to confirm if you're seeing something by the sun, try to find a way to occlude the light of the sun like this gentleman here had done. And then you'll get a better view of Nibiru. And if you want to send your pictures to me for analysis to our WSO team, send them to olson.steven.d@gmail.com. We'll take a look at it as we get to it. Sometimes it takes a couple days to get to all the emails, but we do eventually get